How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, we're going to keep this quick. We're going to be talking about Jussie Smollett starting a 150-day jail term and protective status. This topic has come our way through requests. We've been getting a lot of good community building, if you will, from the Duty Ron family as well. So they were interested in this topic. So I thought we can go ahead and kind of share our thoughts of what it's like, what it was going to be like for Jussie Smollett. Just want to read the article real quick, and then we'll go into me and Soto will break down what we feel it will be like for Jussie Smollett in jail to do his 150-day term. And we're going to do it from multiple perspectives because not just frontline, but also management, what our worries are going to be. But real quick, Jussie Smollett began a 150-day jail sentence for staging a hate crime against himself, and he's now in protective custody, separated from other detainees and watched by security cameras and an officer. Sheriff deputies immediately took Smollett to the Cook County Jail on Thursday night after Judge James Lynn sentenced the black and gay actor to 30 months of felony probation, starting with a 5-month term in jail for lying to police that he had been the target of a racist and homophobic attack. Smollett loudly maintained his innocence and suggested he could be killed in jail. Your Honor, I respect you and I respect the jury, but I did not do this, Smollett said Thursday, and I'm not suicidal. And if anything happens to me when I go in there, I did not do it to myself. Smollett's sentence may put an end to pending appeals to more than 3 years of legal drama following the actor's report to police that 2 men wearing ski masks beat him and hurled racial and homophobic slurs at him on a dark Chicago street and then ran off. Smollett's attorney said Thursday night that they plan to appeal both the jury's guilty verdict and the judge's sentence. In a statement on Friday, the Cook County Sheriff's Office said Smollett is being held in protective custody, typical for people who may potentially be at risk of harm due to the nature of their charges, their profession, or their noteworthy status. Smollett has his own cell, monitored by security cameras, and an officer stationed at the door and wearing a body camera, the sheriff's office said. Smollett is able to have substantial time in common areas to use the phone, watch TV, and interact with staff, but other detainees won't be in common areas with him. Smollett faced up to 3 years in prison for each of the 5 felony counts of disorderly conduct. The charge filed for lying to police, of which he was convicted. He was acquitted on a 6th count. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot praised the sentence, saying it sends a message that false claims and allegations would not be tolerated. The city feels vindicated in today's ruling that he's being held accountable and that we will appropriately receive restitution for his actions, she said. Smollett's sentence includes a payment of $120,000 in restitution for the city and a $25,000 fine. And closed off December's jury trial, where witnesses included 2 brothers who told jurors Smollett paid them to carry out the attack and gave specific directions on what to do and say. Smollett, who knew the men from his work on the television show Empire that filmed in Chicago, testified that he did not recognize them and did not know they were the men attacking him. Guys, so right off the bat, you know what's funny? I love when someone does something wrong and then tries to blame the system that they're going to be killed if you put me in jail. Well, we're only reacting to what you've done, and now the next step is you're going to have to go to jail. Would you agree with that, Soto?
No, absolutely. I mean, we don't even have to talk too much about the case. You just read all the particulars and all the evidence that showed that he, in fact, 100% did this to himself. They even have video of him and supposedly the perpetrators on the day before, doing like a dry run to know where to meet him, where to do this, all this stuff. I mean, but now it's up to us and the Department of Corrections, specifically Cook County, to, protect this individual against all other wrongdoing or anything else that may happen to him. That's why they have him now separated from the rest of the population. He's basically put himself in some sort of isolation because I can't have you be with everyone else because no one really is going to believe your story. And we can't have the other inmates or the inmate population, that may not be too nice to him, right?
Yeah.
So we have to protect him from himself and all the things that came out of this trial.
Yeah, so like right off the bat, if you're in jail and you're getting someone that is high profile, again, whether it's the crime, their profession, maybe their status in society, we do go right into protection mode, which is obviously, I believe, the opposite of what the public may think. Our job is to protect this inmate. One, because that's our job. It's always going to be our job. But also, all eyes are on us right now. I mean, there's media attention that are going to be focused on what we're doing, every step in the handling of Jussie Smollett. Now, for Cook County, obviously, the protective custody non-congregate makes sense, but in order to put someone in protective custody, you have to remember you don't want to use the words isolate, right? That's one thing. We hate the word isolate, right? So that's why it was quick to say that the inmate has been separated from everyone else, but they are going to be awarded the same opportunities as everyone else. How important is that, Soto, when if you are going to put an inmate in some form of PC, in some form of non-congregate PC, that they are awarded the same opportunities as an inmate in general population? What I mean by opportunities could be legal access, rec, showers, kiosk, if there's a kiosk there, just things that could be considered rights that are not privileges that we have to find a way to offer those inmates that have been removed from population for protective reasons.
No, we have to apply. We have to abide by, everything that's. I mean, Cook County is the one that's on the hot seat. Basically, I know they're going to follow protocol. They're going to be able to give him his visitation rights, legal access. Even if it's to see his attorney or have access to a law library. Your recreation that you have to give the individual, whether it's indoor rec or outdoor rec, all of that has to continue, whether you're, segregated from the general population. But remember, we're segregating him. And I use the word segregation and isolation because those are the old terms. I know we're just making sure that he's safe, but we have to abide by and give him every opportunity that the general population has, and again, unfortunately, we have to do a better job. Cook County is going to do, I'm sure, an excellent job. You see already they have an officer at the cell. They have body cam on the officer. They're documenting everything because obviously we don't know the reasons or the real reasons why Smollett did this. Maybe to gain attention, attraction. Maybe he did want to bring forth, bring the topic up to light again about homophobic and homophobia around the world, but he had a better venue. You're already a great actor. You're already, a celebrity. You could have done this in many different ways and not this destructive way that now brought attention, negative attention, as opposed to positive attention.
Yeah, what's unique about the body camera is, I'm sure the facility itself is going to have cameras directly in that unit. They should. Maybe not directly in the cell because that could be some privacy issues there, but, maybe because I don't think he's on constant watch status. I just think he's going to be housed there. So I don't think there's a need to have a camera directly in his cell or looking directly into his cell, but definitely on the outside of the cell. And the body camera, I'm thinking for the officer that's wearing the body cam, it must be related to any type of interaction. So like if I have to interact with the inmate, if I have to escort them or whatever the case may be, then you would turn the body cam on to show those interactions. Would you agree with that, Soto? Or
yeah, absolutely. But if you saw the small video at his sentencing, he made mention, hey, listen, I am not suicidal. If anything happens to me in there, it wasn't because I did it to myself. I mean, he's just putting there or laying the ground out to say, if something were to happen to me, if someone were to assault me, or if some wrongdoing were to happen to me, I want it investigated. So that's why Cook County is sitting there and saying, well, we're going to take a little bit more than we would normally do, including putting an officer there with a body cam. Now, obviously, when you go in, you get medically evaluated. You also get a evaluation as far as what your mental status is, mental health status. And just by naming, hey, I'm not suicidal, you've already sent up some red flags saying hey, maybe the mental health clinician at that point said it wouldn't be a bad idea to ensure that we put him some sort of watch. It may not be constant watch. It may be a close watch, where it's every 15 minutes or every half hour or whatever Cook County protocols call for. But You see what they're doing. They're basically documenting everything, including having that body cam on the officer that's sitting in front of the cell or near the cell or on the unit. But the unit itself will have cameras, obviously, to record everything that happens, 24/7.
Yeah, be mindful, guys. You have a guy that was in society that had a good high level status, and all of a sudden they go to a jail and that drops. So for me, I see no issue with a universal precaution, especially at the very beginning. One, yes, we know to protect him from others, but also maybe to protect him from himself. But I mean, it is only a 150-day sentence, but the drop, from doing this, because mind you, he's got maybe a 150-day jail sentence. I get it, but his life is going to change. His life is going to totally change when he gets outside. His life is changing now drastically. So I do think it's good to have those extra measures in place. One, to make sure, he's not going to be harmed by others, but also to make sure that he doesn't want to harm himself. Because the funny thing is that when he did say, I like what Soto said, when he did say in court that I'm not suicidal, it makes you wonder why that thought is in his head. Maybe he's kind of telling you he could be, but he's trying to ensure that he's not. So that would be something that mental health would explore. Like, why'd you feel the need to say that? Just wondering where your mental state is, and then to put him in positions where he can eliminate the impulse. Now, by the way, with the extra eyes on him, it's not even just a matter of, us going to be able to catch it and see it. But usually when you have those eyes on them, it lessens their impulse to even make the effort to try. I mean, would you agree with that, Soto? And Soto, to be honest with you, if we have all these measures in place and we drop the ball somewhere along the line, if the inmate does harm themselves, or if the inmate is hurt by others, the facility is going to have a lot of explaining to do, correct? That's why we do have all these universal precautions, which I'm sure is costing a lot of money.
Absolutely. So again, it's not because, we don't do this on a normal basis. It's just because of the celebrity status, and obviously people looking into it, wanting to know more and more about it, right? That Cook County is going to have to take those precautions even to a greater extent. But this is the normal procedure, guys. This isn't something that we're doing because it's Jussie Smollett. It's not him. It's our protocol, no matter what institution or jail you go to. It just comes out more because the media is interested in this particular case. He's not the first celebrity to go into jail. He's not the first. I mean, we've had tons and tons of celebrities that have gone into prison, done their time, come out, and then talk about, it wasn't that bad. It was a great experience. But Cook County is going to make sure that they do everything in their power to ensure they follow protocol. And if something were to happen, just remember this again as well. Someone that may be suicidal, want to harm themselves, they're not going to do it in the presence of either custody or other residents or inmates. They're going to do it when you're not there, right? When you're not watching, when you're not. If someone that commits suicide and is successful, right, is usually doing it at a time when maybe in between the rounds of the officer, right? If we're doing rounds every half hour, he's not going to do it in front of you because, we have to intercede. So these are things that you think about. Just remember that he is just an inmate, just like everybody else, though we will follow our protocol to the T, right, to prevent from something going on. And that's why Cook County is taking maybe more measures and going above and beyond.
Yeah, and I like what Soto said. There's really nothing unique in the handling of it. That's why we're able to talk about this, because I'm assuming these same practices that Cook County is doing, you'd find all across the country, again, because these practices are probably the evolution of liability. If you will, I mean, this is where you're at and where you have to be based on successes and failures of, past, people of high profile, or, people, again, high profile because of their crime or because of who they are. Even in some cases, what they've done in the prison. You can have an inmate that could be a relative nobody and all of a sudden kill, let's say, a high ranking gang member in a dispute. And next thing you know, that inmate is going to be put on this same type of watch. I would also recommend, but I don't know if this is going to happen, but I'd also recommend that the officer that is working the post, that it's not always the same one. I know this may sound weird. People think, well, you want to build some level of consistency and, it only should be certain ones if they filter through. No, I don't think it should be the same one because you don't want to build some level of undue familiarity. I think you have officers that are in their trusted position. I think that once you break it down to them and tell them this is what's expected of you, plus again, you have the cameras and all that stuff there, you should be rotating those people out so there's nothing ever planned. Like I know that Soto, you know, maybe me and Jussie, you know, we become friends during this time, which would suck. And I know I'm coming back tomorrow, so I got you. No, keep things on their toes. Would you agree with that? Like, kind of make that assignment, you know, noted the day of. This is who we need there. You go out there today. That's your job today. Would you agree with that, or?
No, I agree. You can tackle it different ways in different venues. So some people will be on the aspect, let me find the best officer, and let me find a reliable officer, and let me find somebody that's, you know, can be unbreakable, right? And put those individuals there. But remember that, you know, the celebrity status, the, you know, the awe factor, we're all human. You know, Jussie Smollett, just like any other inmate, can use his influence to gain access to the officers and turn them, or, you know, it's all the same thing. Just because you're there for 150 days as opposed to 10 years, you know, Gangi, the work is the same, right? The inmate's going to try the same. It's human nature, right? Try to get more than what you're allowed, or trying to gain access and influence on the people that have supervision over you. So yeah, I agree with you. You can change it up like that, have a different officer come in, so there's no way for him to continue. But then again, think about it the other way, that this individual can have different, you know, Jussie can say, oh, they're going to bring somebody different today. Here's my opportunity to work on that individual for 8 hours. All they have is time, right? Yeah. Time on their hands. So tackle it different ways.
Yeah, for me with this, I think it's pretty good to rotate it out.
Yeah.
I don't think the threat on Jussie Smollett, I mean, I don't know if there is really going to be much of a threat. Having said that, but you have to go universal precaution. But I definitely don't think the threat, I mean, you never know, but I don't think the threat's coming from staff. You know, if anything, I mean, granted, sometimes with the inmates, it's not even so much about the crime. It's more of, I can connect to that spotlight that the inmate's in already. So if I go ahead and take that inmate out, I could share in some of that fame, that stardom. Plus, also, don't forget, I mean, I don't know if he's, you know, continues to be wealthy or whatnot, but an inmate of that status, if you put them in general population, they could be, threatened or coerced by the other inmates. Because again, you could have someone that has something or could have the perception of having something a lot, and then the inmates wanting that. So it's good to keep them away from that as well, because again, you could have Jussie being extorted, you know, if that makes any sense. Would you agree with that too, Soto?
No, absolutely. You know, the biggest threat to Jussie is himself at this point, right? He's the one that basically asked for all this attention. You wanted attention, you got attention, right? Now, you know, it is what it is. Now you're in prison or jail, and, you know, what else are you going to do? Because if everything goes well, right, the media isn't allowed access to the jail cell. The media isn't allowed, you know, to come in and ask questions every day. They're not going to park themselves outside of the jail for the 150 days. They're just going to forget about him, finish his sentence, and maybe they'll be out there on the day of his release, which maybe even earlier than 150 days, because he's been forced to be a great inmate, right? Good time, commutation time, you know, maybe he doesn't do 150 days. Maybe he does 100 days, or maybe 125 days. But the only time he'll see the media again is when he gets released. They'll probably be outside ready for him to start the rest of his sentence, because he's still on probation. So,
yeah. And I will say this before we come to a close, that guys, because the inmate only has 150 days, I don't think there really should be any process of getting them out of PC. I think we should just ride it out and let them remain there and go. Now, if the inmate would wound up, let's say, getting sentenced over a year and wind up in a prison, well, you know, there may be wanting to be some efforts. But having said that, because the media could be so unpredictable, you know, you don't know when the case is really fully done, or when it's going to go back in the news, or, oh, there's an anniversary, let's put it back in the news again. And now here we are, you know, maneuvering. But for someone like that who got his fame through a pretty popular show, it may not be in anyone's best interest, even if he was sent to a prison term, to really have that inmate in GP. You know, it would be something that I think that would be approved every time the inmate's coming up for PC review, that, hey, we got to keep him where we're at because of his high profile in society, both for crime and then also for who he is. And I don't know. I would go as far as keeping the person non-congregate, because again, you never know. People can always find their way into a PC congregate system, and then kind of just all they got to do is go out to yard once together. And one more other piece of advice, I'm sure Soto will agree with this too, is that if you're in management or whatever it is, or you're receiving phone calls asking about him, you better make sure that if you do answer any, that they're the emergency contact, and you're connecting that by the list that the inmate has put in and the number that's calling. So the inmate, when they get into the system, they will talk to social services. They will identify an emergency contact that can call on their behalf. So let's say for Jussie, it's, I don't know, you really want a family member. So I don't know Jussie's family. I don't know if his mother's still alive, his sister, but you really want a family member. Whoever that family member is identified, it's going to be identified by the family member through Jussie and that phone number. If you have anybody else calling and you cannot match, the key is that phone number first. Look for the number first, then look for the name. If that's on his list and that's his EC and that's put in the system, then okay, I got the number here and I got this person saying who they are, it matches. But if you ever get, oh, I'm his mother, or but this number don't match, sorry, you got to call me from the number they have on file, because right now, and I know what happens, and this goes out to the media, you will pretend to be a family member. You will pretend to be somebody to get information. And it takes the wrong person to answer that, to not do their due diligence. And then all of a sudden, you know, now what's happening in the prison leaks its way out because you haven't identified the person making the phone call as a true emergency contact, which now is not just a concern for the prison, but also messes with the rights of Jussie Smollett. Would you agree with that, Soto?
Absolutely. I know all prisons and county jails are very well versed in this aspect. You know what I mean? We don't give out any information over the telephone that is privy or private to the inmate, you know, but if it is their emergency contact, if it is a person that they have authorized for us to speak with, once we make and do that due diligence, we can give out information that the inmate himself or herself has allowed us to or authorized us to. So I know they have plenty of protocol that they follow, and you know, we just have to make sure that we don't make the mistake and just speak out to anyone on the other side. You don't know who's on the other side or on the other line.
And that does happen. It does happen. And last but not least, if you are put into a position where you do have to watch Jussie Smollett, or maybe you're, you know, medical, mental health, whatever it is, however your prescribed role will relate to the individual, keep it there, you know, because there'll be media out there wanting to know, you know, who these people are, and they'll find who's working the post. They just always have means to an end. But I will guarantee you this: if you leak anything, it will be found out. 100%. It always is. We find out who worked that post, and you know, this is what they said. So we already know there's attention on Cook County. Let's just make sure that we don't give them anything extra. At the end of the day, he's no different than any other inmate, and they're going to get their their needs. They're going to get what's expected for us to do within our prescribed role, nothing more, nothing less. And after 150 days, the inmate will be released. And at the end of the day, he goes on with his life, and we continue rocking the beat, you know, until we retire, if need be. And to be honest with you, I mean, for the public, this may be a memorable event for however long until they move on to the next one. But for us, like I think Soto said at the beginning, it's routine.
Yep.
Jussie Smollett's no different than anybody else. And if you walk in saying, "Whoa, we got Jussie Smollett," stop. It's another inmate who did another crime. And at the end of the day, when you retire, he should blend in with everyone else you've ever dealt with. Hey, Soto, anything in closing?
Just to my Cook County folks, please just be professional, you know, stay safe, you know, and as always, you know, let someone know that your life and your job is just as important as anyone else's, right? Without us, you know, there may not be the clear conscience to be able to live in our society the way we do. So thank you for the job that you guys do as correctional professionals, and keep up the good work.
Yes, and I'm also a big fan of Cook County. Obviously, if there's any jail that can handle this, they could. They do watch the videos that we put up in their training. And I am actually just humbled by them. I think they're very good stand-up professionals. It's one of the toughest jails in the country, the stuff that they handle. So having said that, bravo to our brave men and women that work in Cooks County. And again, it's another challenge. You guys aren't afraid of challenges, and I'm sure you'll step up. The moment will pass. We'll recognize you guys as the heroes you are, but you can't expect the media to. So, as always, guys, the show is Tier Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Stay